The following is an AZPM original production.
For AZPM, I'm Mark McLemore, and this is Arizona Spotlight. Coming up, hear about the NAMIWALKS event. It's raising awareness, fighting stigma, and promoting mental wellness in our community. It's one thing to learn about history, but it's another thing to actually hear it. Meet the band Piffaro, who perform medieval, Renaissance, and Baroque music on original antique instruments. And a creative writing celebration being held by Cochise College will feature poet and performance artist Logan Phillips. Find out what's in store. Those stories are next on Arizona Spotlight. NAMISA, or the National Alliance on Mental Illness Southern Arizona, is holding its biggest fundraiser of the year on Saturday, April 6th at Kennedy Park. You can join others in a 1K or 3K walk, find resources, build connections, and help reduce the stigma surrounding mental illness. Joining me now are two representatives from NAMI who each have a story to tell. Although nothing graphic will be discussed, the following interview does make mention of suicidal ideation and may not be appropriate for all listeners. Now meet Marisol De La Rosa and April Barbosa. Marisol begins by telling how her 10 years, first volunteering and now working with NAMI, began.
I came to NAMI because a family member started doing drugs, and I wanted to help her. So then that's when I started volunteering at the Haven, and then I realized that it was a little bit more than the addiction. There was something else happening. So that's when I realized that she was self-medicating to numb herself from feeling depression. So then that's when I started volunteering at NAMI 10 years ago. I knew nothing about mental health diagnosis. I knew nothing. It was a whole eye-opener. I saw the world differently. I didn't look at a homeless in the corner and say, like, what the heck? You know, I'm over here working and they want everything for free. You see the world differently. You don't see that homeless person as a drug addict. You see that homeless person as somebody who needs help, doesn't have the treatment he needs for his mental health condition.
It seems like many of the things that people who are on the outside of mental health discussions might look at as weaknesses that people exhibit are actually very integrated, that our mental states are dependent on many outside factors. What have you learned about NAMI being able to position itself between these outside factors and the effects that they're having on people in our community?
There's huge stigma. Mental health doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
People sometimes don't want to admit to it. They'd rather blame it on something else. You know, you're not going to church, you're not praying enough, something. The stigma is huge. They come to NAMI not understanding, just like I came to NAMI, not understanding anything about mental illness. They leave the office knowing that there is help out there with a handful of resources, where to start. NAMI is the starting point of getting help.
April, I'd like to ask you about your experience with NAMI. How did you come into the fold?
So in 2017, me and my daughter were driving by the NAMI office, and it said something about offering classes. We decided to sign up. We didn't know what NAMI was. We're just like, okay, we're going to try something new. We were new to the area. They had a waiting list. And, a few months later, my daughter was murdered.
I'm so sorry. How old was your daughter?
She was 18.
What can you possibly share with our audience about what happened to you?
Well, mental health wasn't something that we talked about in my family. And so when this happened, my family, a lot of us gained PTSD. My whole life fell apart. I laid in bed for months, just dropping down to like a skeletal 90 pounds. I didn't want to live anymore. Had suicidal ideations. We didn't really talk about it. It was just everybody was hurting. And then I received a phone call from Yasmin, the peer-to-peer program manager, and she said that she had an opening for me and my daughter in the class. And at that moment, I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. And we hung up, and I just laid there like, why? And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to this class, and I'm going to do it in memory of my daughter. So that's what I did. And I found a place, a room full of people that we were open to discuss our emotions, our struggles, and there was no shame in it. No shame at all. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful to be able to drop those walls for a minute. That was my start in getting my peer-to-peer certification, becoming a peer leader trainer, becoming a peer support trainer, becoming a national peer trainer, because I wanted to help other people the way NAMI helped me. NAMI helped me so much that I was able to found my own nonprofit for violence prevention because of things that NAMI taught me. I'm the program manager for the Ending the Silence program. We go into schools, we do presentations about mental health awareness, breaking the stigma, and to see these kids come up and be like, oh, I'm not alone. You know, I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only one that felt this way is amazing, because we're helping this new generation to be okay to talk about it, to be okay to say, you know, it's okay to not be okay and we need help. And then I also do the In Our Own Voice program. And my presenters in that one, they go out into the community and talk to other adults about mental health awareness, about what they've been through. And, you know, raising awareness and breaking stigma is a hard thing to do because there's, you know, a lot of pushback. So what NAMI does is needed, and it's beautiful and it's amazing. And, you know, if it wasn't for NAMI Southern Arizona, I don't know where I'd be right now.
Can either of you speak to the difference between the way that mental health is thought about in the generation of kids who may be in middle school, high school, active on social media, as opposed to places that we may have been at a similar age?
You know, I'm going to take a swing at this one.
Okay, Marisol.
I have kids. I live in Vail School District. Amazing school district. The kids now, the knowledge they have on mental health, it amazes me. With the schools, they have mental health clubs that the kids get involved in. My children, I always talk to them about my mental health conditions, about schizophrenia, about, you know, they never laugh at anybody. They never make fun of anybody that they may see at the street having a conversations with themselves. They have an understanding. I've had their friends in my car as well, and it amazes me at how empathetic they are to seeing what goes on the streets here in Tucson. So I think it's a whole different world. I think that it's getting better.
Yeah, I see that a lot of them are very informed. But coming with that information, especially on social media, there is a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of things that aren't valid that are being spread. So when it comes to learning about mental illness, I highly recommend that they go to legitimate sources, because people will post things on TikTok, on Facebook that are not real. And you know, I do find that a lot of our youth today, even the adults, will throw around words like, oh, I'm a little bit OCD, or oh, that person's a narcissist. And, you know, if they really knew people that had OCD, they wouldn't be saying that so lightly. And it's hard. Even sometimes I find myself saying things that I have to reflect on later and try to process it. And because person-first language is very important. You know, before these people have mental illness, they are a person. So I always am trying to recognize the people first. And we want our society to be accepting of people with mental illness. You know, and I've even found myself trying to like, oh, we'll do it this way, and don't do whatever you're doing that way because it makes other people uncomfortable. And the more I work there, the more I realize, no, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to adjust the way things have been to help these people be able to live the way they need to live.
Marisol, to someone who's listening to this conversation and who identifies with some of the things that have been said, what would you tell them about accessing NAMI for help? What are some of the tiers or the levels of response that NAMI can give to an individual?
NAMI, nonprofit, there's not a fee for any of our services. We provide advocacy, education, and support, not only for the individual that has a diagnosis, but also for friends and family. It's very important that the individual has the understanding and the support from the loved ones, because if they can't get that, it's going to be a tough journey for them. So the education part, we have the peer-to-peer, which is which is for the individual. It's a 3-step program. It's the peer-to-peer, the peer mentor, and the PSS. When they complete all 3, they leave NAMI with a certification where they can get a job in the behavioral health, which is amazing, at no fee.
April, from your involvement with Ending the Silence, can you share with us any particular story? You don't have to include details. Something you've seen that makes you believe that this is the right way to go.
Oh, wow. I have endless stories of seeing things that are just amazing. I think one of the most serious ones that I seen was a young girl came up to the presenter afterwards and said, "Today was the day that I was going to end it all, and you gave me hope." We were able to get the school counselors involved, parents involved, and, if we wouldn't have been there that day, she would have never shared it. She would have just went and done what she wanted to do. But because the presenters were there and they were able to connect with her, she seen that there was hope and that things could get better. And thankfully, things are better for her.
Thank you to my guests, Marisol De La Rosa and April Barbosa. They and many of the most compassionate people in our community will be at the Kennedy Park Fiesta area on South La Cholla Drive, Saturday, April 6th. Registration begins at 7 a.m. You can connect now with NAMIWALKS through our show's webpage at azpm.org. Now let's go east and check in on a pair of cultural events happening in neighboring Cochise County. Earlier this month, a Philadelphia-based ensemble brought the spirit of medieval and Baroque music back to life through performance and education. Piffaro, the Renaissance band, takes their name from the original Italian word for a piper, also a group of early wind instruments that were often used by shepherds. When Piffaro performed at Cochise College's Sierra Vista campus, Summer Hom, AZPM's Cochise County reporter, was there.
It's one thing to read and learn history, but it's entirely another to hear it. Luckily, music from the medieval and Baroque periods is being preserved and performed by some dedicated professionals.
Our mission is to sort of recreate these civic, professional wind bands of the 15th and 16th century.
That's Priscilla Herod, the artistic director of the Renaissance music ensemble Piffaro. The band performed and hosted a masterclass at Cochise College's Sierra Vista campus last month.
It is not a common thing to see, even in Europe, where these bands are originally from. There aren't that many of them, but the Renaissance Wind Band was the prominent premier professional ensemble for 250 years in the Renaissance.
The band specializes in performing music from the end of the medieval era through the Renaissance and early Baroque periods. Herod says Piffaro concentrates on those eras because it lines up with the technology of their instruments.
Our instruments span really from the end of the Middle Ages to the beginning of the Baroque period, when music starts to sound a little bit more like what we think of as classical music now, when you start to get names like Bach, even Monteverdi, it starts to sound more like, oh, that's a scale, I can play that on the piano. If you listen to this concert, it sounds a little bit more, it just sounds older. That really is the right word for it. It's more modal, it's more kind kind of big and open and expansive. So that's what we do. We really specialize in these instruments. We played the ancestors of today's oboes and bassoons and trumpets and trombones, called the shawm, the sackbut, the dulcian, recorders, lutes, percussion, bagpipes. We have all of that.
Herod outlines some of the family tree of elder instruments.
The shawm is basically the grandfather of the oboe. It's a double reed instrument that looks a lot. If you're familiar with Christmas cards from the Met Museum of Art, and you see an angel playing something that sticks straight out, that might be a shawm. That would be the higher instruments in the alta capella, or the loud band, we call it, which was that, as I mentioned, that civic ensemble, that really highly trained professional ensemble throughout the 15th and 16th centuries. The sackbut is a odd-sounding name for basically just a trombone.
Herod says that Piffaro has been performing this music since 1980.
It actually started with members of the University of Pennsylvania Collegium and a Collegium Musicum, early music ensemble at the university. The members of that ensemble noticed that there wasn't much going on in the field of early wind playing, and there certainly wasn't in the 70s and 80s. That still is a pretty niche within the niche of early music. We are pretty one of a kind in that we are a Renaissance wind band, which is a group of only about 6 or 7 players that play a variety of instruments. Usually about 40 different instruments will appear in a concert, because that is authentic to what musicians in the 15th and 16th centuries did.
While touring South America, the US, Europe, and Canada, Herod says that Piffaro always focuses on education as a part of their mission.
There is no clear-cut path to early music. Especially in the States, most people don't really find out that early music could be something that you could make a living at till you're already in grad school for your classical instrument. There are some of us weirdos that started recorder as kids and knew about this as a viable path, or at least just loved it enough that they wanted to try to find a way to make it work, like me. But just normalizing it, so that people know these are instruments you can play. This is music you can play, and it's also music you can play on your modern instrument. You're trying to break down that divide, that it's, we're not earlier than thou, but you can play this on your modern clarinet or oboe or flute.
The concert and master class that Piffaro hosted at Cochise College's Library Commons in February was the result of a collaboration between Cochise College and Arizona Early Music, a Tucson-based concert series that celebrates the origins of today's classical music. Dominic Giardino, the executive director of Arizona Early Music, says last year they began looking for new partners in southern Arizona.
We are a Tucson-based concert series that specializes in presenting professional performers and touring ensembles in the field of early music or historical performance. And part of our mission really is to serve Southern Arizona, right? It's not just to serve our community in Tucson. We want to try to get out of the city as much as we can. And in looking for partners, we looked to Cochise and found a very enthusiastic collaborator. And last year, we brought the Cleveland-based ensemble Les Délices. It's one of the things that we love about early music in general, is the field actually represents so many different periods, so many different sounds, so many different instruments, and so many different approaches. It's my hope that we can continue this collaboration going for many, many years.
Director of the Cochise College Music Department, Dr. Callie Hutchinson, says there's a thriving early music community in the area.
We at Cochise College have, in Sierra Vista and Cochise County, have actually a pretty thriving early music community of students that are passionate about early music. And so being able to bring these groups down to Cochise College and with our music department and to work with these students is just it's the best. I'm so excited. And also to just expose this music to a wider audience that probably wouldn't normally come see, and wouldn't be able to drive up to Tucson necessarily to see the concert.
Herod explained that Piffaro gave the community college a preview of their full concert called The French-Italian Connection.
I was fascinated by, there's a really small number of years over the turn of the 1400s into the 1500s. that the French King Charles VIII was reigning. His court had all of these really, really important composers to us now. Like, they're really important in history. They were at his court. They were known throughout Europe, partly because of a really important publication of polyphonic music that happened in the very beginning of the 16th century in Italy, called the Odecaton. People thought of it as the Gutenberg Bible of music, because movable type had recently been invented, but not a lot of people were using it. This sort of made the literary world explode in terms of music. So it's not only that, well, these French composers were being published in Italy, it meant that all of Europe could see this music now. So we've got the connection that way. We also have that Charles took a bunch of these composers when he went to Italy and had battles, and some of these composers were there for that. And we'll hear a little bit of what was happening in Florence this time, where there was already a whole lot going on at the beginning of the century.
Herod says that she found this period of music to be one that has always felt like home to her. For Arizona Spotlight, I'm Summer Hom.
A learning opportunity for writers of all stripes is returning next week after taking a hiatus during the pandemic. The Cochise College Creative Writing Celebration occurs Friday, April 5th, teaching practical skills to would-be authors and the public at large. Tony Paniagua has an interview with this year's special guest and one of the event organizers.
Alex O'Meara, Cochise College English and Journalism instructor, and Logan Phillips, a local poet, performance artist, and educator. Thank you so much for joining me.
Happy to be here. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Alex, please start with telling us about the Creative Writing Celebration. How long has it been around, and what do you hope to accomplish this time?
Okay, it's been around for about 23 years. Last year we didn't have it, and the year before that because of the pandemic. But it used to be, when we did have this event, it was a 2-day event with multiple workshops over those 2 days, multiple presenters. And as we looked at the event, we wanted to retool it and make it more nimble for people who might not have 2 days. We're breaking it out into workshops throughout the semester, 2 or 3 a year, and the workshops are about 3 hours long, so it's more bite-sized and easier to take it all in at one piece at a time. The point of it is to learn some skills. I mean, writing at the end of the day, whether you're a poet, whether you write short stories, whether you're a screenwriter, writing is a craft. We want people to have tools to improve how they write, and to do that, give them tools and actual things they can use in their writing.
Alex, as a way to learn when it comes to writing, you have a workshop leader and a presenter. Logan, let's hear from you. Can you tell us a little about your background in Cochise College and what led to you being here at the University of Arizona?
Sure. I was born in Tombstone. It's where we lived when I was born, and grew up outside of Sierra Vista near the Huachucas. And if it wasn't for Cochise College, I would not have graduated high school on time because I was short a couple credits. And so that's where I took my very first English class and math as well. And so it's really great to be returning to a place that is so close to my heart. And after many years traveling and living in Mexico City for a long while, returned to live full-time in Tucson in around 2010 or so, and was definitely the right place at the right time. And now, I'm here at the university teaching in the English department, as well as doing many other things.
What is it about the written word, or the oral word, if you will, that inspires you so much and has really led to define who you are?
Yeah, great question. I think that writing for me, especially now more so than ever, is more about process than it is about product. I don't sit down to write a poem or to write a short story or whatever it may be. To me, the pleasure is in the process and in working through the process. I think it's attributed to Picasso, who said that, you want inspiration to find you working. And so for me, it's just been about, staying with the craft over time and different stages in life and understanding that it's a way to see the world and to see myself and get to the bottom of things. And so I honestly can't imagine a life without writing, apart from, career sort of focus, just really being a human being in a body, dealing with the times we live in.
And the title of your event is Lush Desert, Writing, Contradiction, Juxtaposition, and Metaphor. Why those words?
When it comes to thinking about writing, so much is in between the words, especially in poetry. We're trying to put into words that which doesn't really fit. And so when we have a metaphor, there's two halves of the metaphor, but the thing we're really getting at is this third thing, and being born and raised in the borderlands, I'm really, cognizant of kind of trying to defy binaries, right? Or get out of sort of, binary thinking whenever possible. And so I believe that, being here in the lushest desert in the world, people think that lush desert itself is a misnomer, but that contradiction actually contains a fundamental truth, right? And so that kind of dialectical way of thinking really helps, especially when we live in such polarized times when we were told that things must be one way or the other, when really all of us are so complicated and the world is so complicated. And so through writing exercises in the workshop, we really want to see language as a place of play, because play is where we are really able to feel free and get free. And in that way, find kind of new ways into language and be able to find new ways to say old things or new ways to say new things.
Alex, this creative writing celebration includes 2 contests, one for adults and one for kids. Can you tell us about those and what happens?
In the creative writing contest for adults, it's in 3 categories, which is poetry, fiction, and memoir. We had an amazingly high number of entries, which is so gratifying. Just incredible. 100 poems, 50 short stories, 25 memoir pieces. So that was really great. We're judging those now, and we will announce the winners at the Creative Writing Celebration on April 5th. Additionally, we have a kids writing contest, which we're really fond of. It's 3 categories there, K through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. It's limited to 200 words per entrant, but we're growing this from a few years ago. The librarians in Huachuca City and the county and Copper Queen Library in Bisbee all judge the entries and give feedback. And it's really important, not just for this event, but if you can get students, kids, and encourage them to write and to express themselves and to put their work in the world, my God, that's just so wonderful.
And Logan, how important was it for you while growing up to hear from authors and published figures, and now you are in that role to help others coming up behind you?
When I was coming up, it was kind of pre-internet or just early internet times. And so there was no YouTube and there was no access to spoken words. So I remember the only poetry I really had access to was kind of like this small, section at the one bookstore in town. And that's changed a lot recently. But I think one of the reasons that I am drawn to education work is that I believe it is all of our responsibilities to increase the availability of self-expression or whatever skills we have to other folks, right? Half of, being a leader or having a skill is creating space for that skill to be passed on. And so I think that is the imperative, is just making sure that this is kind of something that's available to as many folks to be able to use as a tool for dreaming a better world.
Logan Phillips, poet, performance artist, and educator, and Alex O'Meara, Cochise College English and journalism instructor. Thank you very much for joining us.
This creative writing celebration will be held at the Sierra Vista campus of Cochise College on Friday, April 5th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. For information, there's a link on our website. Check out the Spotlight page at azpm.org. And thank you for listening to Arizona Spotlight. This show is a production of AZPM. The production engineer is Jim Blackwood. Production assistance from Alicia Vasquez. I'm producer and host Mark McLemore.
AZPM podcasts are made possible in part by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org. Thank you.